Welcome to Gratefully Gifted, a podcast for gifted kids made by gifted kids, because we do think that it's great to be gifted. On today's episode, we'll interview Roger Fries, who is a vice president in commercial lending at Central Bank. So let's get started as we learn about money on today's episode.
First, it's time for some fun. Today, I'm going to be telling you some jokes about money. Who's there? Cass. Cass who? No thanks, but I'll take a peanut. Why did the accountant fall out of bed? Because he forgot his balance sheet. How did the pirate get such a good price on his ship? It was on sale. Why are Irish bankers so successful? Because their capital is always Dublin. Getting air for your tires has doubled at the gas station. Talk about inflation. Why do goalkeepers have so much money in the bank? Because they're really good at saving. When ants go missing, who do you call? Department of Finance. What did the duck say after he went shopping? Put it on my bill.
Now it's time for talking time. Today we have with us Roger Fries, who's the Vice President of Commercial Lending for Central Bank. Today we're going to talk about money.
What's your main job at Central Bank?
So I'm a commercial lender, as you just said. And so what that means is that I loan money to people for a variety of things, whether that be business loans, I do personal construction, and some other types of loans similar to that. But that's my job, is to help loan money out.
Mm-hmm. How hard is your job at the bank? Or what do you like least about your job?
So my job can be a challenge because I could be loaning someone hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so when I'm loaning that money out, I want to make sure that I'm taking the appropriate amount of risk. And so it is a little challenging to make sure that when you are loaning out large sums of money, to make sure that you're going to get that money back. And as far as what I like least about my job, I love helping people, and I love being able to help people achieve their dreams by lending them money to help them do something. But the hard part is sometimes I have to tell people no, that I'm not going to give them a loan, and that's really tough too.
What's the most amount of money you've lent to a business at one time?
I can't get into specifics, but let's just say it was more than $1 million. So that's a lot of zeros.
That's 6. How does the bank get the money to lend to businesses and people?
That's a good question. So usually it comes from a variety of ways. One is when a bank starts, it has investors or stockholders that invest their personal money into the bank to get it started. And so that's one source. And then that money can be turned around and the bank will invest it and earn more money off their investments. Likewise, when people come in and put their money into the bank and savings account or checking account, then the bank has the right to turn around and loan that money back out. And so the difference between the interest that we earn on what's loaned and the interest we pay on what's deposited, that's how we make money. So that's why it's so important to make sure that we make good loans so that we get repaid on that money.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about inflation? Is it good for people and businesses to get loans right now?
Wow, that's an excellent question. So, inflation, I look at it as inflation as something that must be done in our economy to help keep it healthy. And nobody likes it, but it's part of the natural cycle of money has in our economy. As far as is now a good time to get loans, there for a while it got a little slower with people wanting loans because the interest rates got higher. And so some people are wanting to wait till they come back down, but there are some people I've noticed that are going ahead and doing it knowing that they can refinance or kind of redo their loan once rates come back down. So for instance, if you found the perfect home you wanted to buy right now, that you're not going to let a little higher interest rate stop you, because in a couple of years you're probably going to be able to refinance it at a lower rate.
So it's like some people take the risks, but other people just don't.
That's a
Is it
great.
kind of like if you buy a house, since interest rates have gone up in like houses, I'm pretty sure.
Mhm.
Like that's why a lot of houses stay on the market for like a couple, maybe even years or months, and usually because of the interest rate.
It is, because right now with higher interest rates, so 18 months ago or so, you could get a 3% interest rate. Today, you're going to have about a 7% interest rate. So you look at that, that's less of a house you can buy today versus 18 months ago, because you can't afford that much higher payment with a higher interest rate. And so that has caused people to stop and think, okay, I'm going to wait till rates come back down, because I either want to buy a bigger house or a nicer house, or I want to move to a certain area. But sometimes people don't have a choice. If their job just got transferred them to the Branson area, then they're going to have to find a place to live. So sometimes they don't have as many options. But when people have that lower interest rate, they're less likely to want to be in a hurry to buy a bigger house, because they like that lower interest rate. And so they'll wait until the market gets better.
Mm-hmm.
Has any bank that you've worked at ever gotten robbed?
Yes. It wasn't the one I was directly in, but it was one of our branches.
Okay. Oh, that's scary.
It is.
What do you do to protect the money in the bank?
That's a really good question. But when it comes to security, I really can't answer any questions about our security, because we want to keep that a secret, as you might imagine. But I can assure you that we go to great lengths to make sure that all the money is protected. And there's something called FDIC insurance on your money. So if you put your money in the bank and the bank got robbed, or if a tornado came through, or a fire and the bank was burned down, you are still guaranteed to get all your money back.
So, like, if you are a bank and you lose all your money from like a fire or a tornado, the insurance, like, you get it back?
So the government would come in and make sure that, say you had your savings account there, the bank or the government would make sure that you got every penny back that you had in your savings account at the bank.
So it's like if a tornado comes through, or a fire, like you said, comes through, since it's not going to be like in a vault or like a little box, probably, it's not going to get blown away or destroyed by fire, but instead it's going to be where it's protected if it happens.
It should be, but I know several years ago when the Joplin tornado happened, there were some banks that their vaults were accessed and the money got out. But again, the people who had put their money in the bank got every penny back that they had in there.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any tips for those of us who want to own a business someday?
There's a couple things I would recommend. Number one, start saving your money early, because it takes money to get a business started. That even though we do loans, we typically look to our borrowers to put some of their own money into it, so that we're not loaning 100% of the amount. That we may loan 80% of what they need, and we expect them to come up with the other 20%. The other thing I encourage you is character. And I know that may sound really odd, but we look at character when giving loans, because character is so important for people wanting to repay their loans. And our schools do a great job of making sure that you have great character traits and to help develop great leaders in our students. And that doesn't stop when you leave school. That carries on the rest of your life. And it's involved with things like credit scores that are so important that we look at, that really help open up doors in the banks for you to be able to get more loans if you have good credit. And that means you have good character.
What advice would you give to kids about money or saving it?
That's another really good question. So what I would recommend is, start at home with a piggy bank, a jar, whatever it is, and save up your money. And when you get about $50 or so, I would go to your parents and say, hey, Mom, Dad, can I open up a savings account at your bank? And that way I can start earning interest. And interest is basically just a little bit of extra money that you get for putting your money in the bank and not touching it.
So interest is like if you keep your money in the bank for longer, your interest can go up. So
Correct.
It's kind of like you're trusting them with your money.
You
They'll give you a couple extra money.
Right. That's exactly right. So you put in $50, you don't touch it, you leave it. At the end of a year, you're going to have more than $50 for the interest you have earned.
Yeah.
And so the more you can put in and keep adding to it, then the more you'll have when it's time to want to buy something, whether that be your first car, your first home, start a business someday. That really helps you out in being able to do that. So I always recommend to students, anytime you receive money, whether that's birthdays or holidays, a certain percentage of it you should spend. You should have fun with it. A certain percentage of it you should maybe set aside and put in your savings account for later on in life, for late on down the road. And then I'd even consider putting some of it aside to give to those less fortunate, whether you have
Like donate to a charity.
give it to a charity, or if you have a drive here at school, whatever it might be, I would recommend doing it that way. So the example I use is that maybe you get $20. Well, maybe you spend $10 today, buy you something today, put $5 or $6 in your savings account, and that leaves $4 or $5 to give to a charity and help someone else.
Thank you for coming today.
It's been my pleasure, and I'm really impressed with these questions. So if you or one of your listeners ever has any questions, I highly encourage them to go in the bank and just ask whoever they see questions about banking so they can learn more about it. Thanks again.
Now for I'm Bored Now What? Today I want to share with you some reasons to read Lunch Money by Andrew Clements. It's about a kid named Greg Kenton who's obsessed with making money and is really good at it. It follows his life from pre-K to 7th grade. It shows how he starts a business at school. Greg runs into some trouble with the principal some way through, but and he needs to learn how to solve the problem. He gets some help from a kid he originally considered an enemy. It's a really good book, and it also gives ideas on how to make money. In other words, you should get this book.
Well, this is all for today. We hope you enjoyed this episode and learned something you didn't already know. If you enjoyed it, please share it with others and like and subscribe where you listen to this podcast. We appreciate your support, and if you would like to reach out with us with other topic ideas, just email us at gratefully-gifted, that is with no spaces, at branson.k12.mo.us. We all feel grateful to be gifted, and we hope you do as well, because being gifted is great.